One is the time. Let's just get the words, excuse me, of somebody who has been there, done that, in number 10 Downing Street at times of stress, although he never saw something quite like this. Nick Pearce is Professor of Public Policy and Director of the Institute for Policy Research at the University of Bath these days. Back in the day, he was Head of Policy at number 10 Downing Street under Gordon Brown. Nick Pearce, you're very welcome. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
These are unprecedented times, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, I don't think we've seen anything quite like this for many years, and events have really snowballed this morning. Boris Johnson, I think, managed to hold the line yesterday evening after Sunak and Sajid Javid resigned. Nobody else from the cabinet joined them. But this morning, the slew of ministers, advisers and now backbench MPs lining up to resign and declare no confidence means I think that the game is up. The premiership of Boris Johnson is coming to an end, and it's now really just a matter of, when and how rather than if, I think.
I wonder the how. What do you think?
Well, I think there's, the obvious canvassed option is that the 1922 Backbench Committee changes its rules, decides to do so, and then holds another no confidence vote, which the Prime Minister would, I think, most people would believe would lose. A majority of Conservative MPs now don't have confidence in him. The alternative is that the Backbench Committee take that to Johnson. They simply say, if a vote was held now, you'd lose, and the game's up. And, we shouldn't put you through a vote like that. You shouldn't put yourself through it. It's time to resign. And that's essentially what they did with Theresa May. Thatcher, of course, very similar, resigned before the second vote. So those are the two options, it seems to me, is that either they confront him with his position or a vote of no confidence is held if he still refuses to go. I suppose there's another option too, which is that senior members of the cabinet, like Michael Gove and Grant Shapps and others, also decide that the time is up, and they go to see the Prime Minister and declare that they would resign if he doesn't resign himself. And if that were the case, I think it would be completely fatal. He couldn't have another resignation from the cabinet, certainly not somebody like Michael Gove.
His personality type is such that he seems to take counsel from very few people, if anyone. In which case, even somebody like Ben Wallace, who we think he respects, or Michael Gove, of course, he's got a checkered history with, one-time great colleagues, one-time great rivals. Is there anybody there who can be that paternal figure and say, sorry, old chap, this isn't going to work?
Well, he's tended to have a kind of moving cast of people around him. He had some loyal people who've stuck with him through many years, but lots of them have gone in recent weeks and months. He's had a lot of turnover and change. He's just lost his Chief of Staff, Steve Barclay, had to promote him into Health Secretary to fill that gap in the Cabinet last night. And physically,
sure. just to make the point, Nick, physically he will have gone, won't he? He's got to go to the Department of Health today and get behind the desk.
No, that's right. I mean, of course, you can always call people back to number 10.
Oh, sure. They know how to use WhatsApp, I hear.
Yeah, and that does happen. That does happen. But yes, I mean, it's not obvious to me that in the course of his career, he's kind of taken counsel of that kind. He's always kind of toughed it out and been more inclined to take the advice of people that can help him campaign and win. And so in these circumstances, it's not obvious that he would just simply take the wise elder counsel. It's a rather different position if you're being told in no uncertain terms that you've lost the confidence of a majority of your MPs and the cabinet. You simply can't go on in those circumstances. And so the question now is, does this happen before the recess? Is there a move against him? Does he resign before the recess? In which case you can have a leadership contest over the summer and a new leader appointed for the party conference season. That, I'm sure, would be the preference of a number of Conservative MPs. The alternative is if he is able to stagger on, is that they then have to face all this through the summer, and they just won't want to do that, I don't think. So it's moving faster today, and the momentum is built up, but it's hard to see being reversed. I'm not sure there's anything much he can say or do at this stage.
It looks like he's going to try, at least for the next half hour. He may quit before the liaison committee kicks off at 3, I suppose. But what, just to, as you were part of the instrument of government there, it is a testament, isn't it, to the British way of the system and the way the civil service goes on, that actually, at least for 24 hours, 48 hours, if there's no one else around, I mean, I'm thinking of the Department of Education. There's practically no minister left there. There's a brand new Secretary of State and I think one minister. But the civil service keep things going, right? I mean, life goes on.
Yes, I mean, the machinery of state stays in place, absolutely. You've got permanent secretaries and their ministerial, the team supporting ministers, they're all still in place, of course. I mean, Boris Johnson's government has tested to destruction the norms as well as the sort of administrative capabilities of government, certainly Number 10. I mean, lots and lots of people have resigned from Number 10, including civil servants. He lost a lot of civil servants. So it's definitely been tested to destruction. But of course, the British state, is maintained in these periods of meltdown and crisis. And of course, once you come out the other side, you've got a new prime minister, then you appoint a new cabinet and, the British government will go back on again. I suppose the other question, of course, is what does happen in the interim, because the Prime Minister needs to stay in place until a new Conservative leader is appointed. And that means that, he's still got to be there holding the shop, as it were, for a while.
Yeah, that could be a month or 6 weeks, I suppose, couldn't it, before? Yes,
I mean, as I say, I mean, when he replaced Theresa May, there was a period, where she had to hold the fort when the leadership election took place. The Conservative Party MPs and then members have to vote. So, yes, there will be an interregnum when he's still at Number 10, when he's no longer effectively in power. And that's a very strange situation for any individual. And it is also for the country because, of course, we are in the middle of an economic crisis, rising inflation, strikes, lots of discontent amongst the public. And so having a kind of an interregnum period where the Prime Minister is in office but not governing is also a very, very difficult one for the country. And so I would have thought, yes, the Conservative MPs would want the process to happen pretty quickly.
OK. From your time, were you stood in post as Gordon Brown lost the election?
Well, the curious thing about that period was that the election was lost on the Thursday night, but of course there wasn't a government formed because no party had a majority, so we had to all troop back into Number 10 and spend the weekend there going through sort of fruitless negotiations, as it turned out, with the Liberal Democrats, and sort of, again, in this rather strange position of being in office but not being really in power. And then, of course, by the Tuesday, it had been resolved and Gordon left office at that point. But yes, it's a very strange scenario when you've lost an election but you're still called to go back into work.
OK. Good to talk to you, Nick. Thank you very much indeed for your insights. Nick Pearce is Professor of Public Policy and Director for the Institute of Policy Research at the University of Bath. He was Head of Policy in Number 10 Downing Street. He's been there, done that, 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 he's been...